Hey everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It has been a minute since I posted, so my apologies about that, but I've been taking care of so many plants. But today, we are going to do an update, a 1-month update actually, on the propagation wall that I had here in my kitchen. You'll recall when I set that up last month, I took a bunch of cuttings of different philodendron heteroecium from the neon philodendron to your standard heartleaf philodendron, as well as the philodendron Brazil. And I have had them growing inside those glass vessels on the side of my kitchen wall for the last 4 weeks. And I have to tell you, boy, oh boy, are they looking good. I just took them down today, and it only took a few minutes to do, really. And what's nice is that when you actually take a look at them, some of them grew such long roots. Look at those. I mean, we wanted about 2 to 3 inches, but I think we got closer to 4 or 5 in some instances. Now, there was one, and I believe it is this one here, that is on the struggle bus a bit and did not grow too long of roots. You can see that they're probably only about, maybe half an inch long, so nothing really too great. So what we're going to do is, because this one was actually placed up in the upper left-hand corner, which doesn't get any direct light at all. In fact, it's kind of blocked by a concrete slab over there. So I'm going to put this in a different area, so we're not going to plant this one up today. But the good news is that we have so many others to do. We have all of these green heartleaf philodendron. We have the neon ones, and we have, of course, one of my favorites, which is the Brazil philodendron, the philodendron Brazil with its beautiful variegated colors. We're going to start with the neon philodendron heteroecium, and you know how I like to use rooting hormone when I have fresh cuttings, to dip their roots inside the hormone and then plant them up, because it helps produce and promote healthier growth. Well, my buddy Todd over at the Bronze Petal in Denver, he introduced me to this stuff, azos, and it's this active bacteria, so a living thing, and it's a beneficial bacteria that is used as a rooting hormone. And basically what it does is it takes atmospheric nitrogen and converts it into nitrogen that is super usable by a plant. So not only does it help promote that growth, but it promotes it so much faster and stronger. So I'm excited to use this for the first time. And we're going to start with the neon philodendron heteroecium heartleaf, which I believe in Greek, philodendron means philo means tree, and then dendron means love. So love tree, and that's why their leaves are heart-shaped. Isn't that cute? So I'm just dipping the roots inside this rooting hormone right now, and I'm going to put down a layer of soil. So we have that. And what I'm going to do is, since these roots are so used to being in water over the last couple of weeks, that it would be kind of a shock to the system for them to just go directly into soil. So we're going to first water it a little bit. I'm going to use my spray can here, turn it off from stream onto spray. That way, you can just set it down in there, like so. Find it a nice, cozy little position. Make sure those roots are in there. And it's always good practice to try and not touch the roots as best as you can. And the reason for that is, oftentimes when we look at plants, we think of the leaves, their foliage, as, who they are. But the reality is that you should be looking really at the roots as basically like the brain of the plant. And so you want to be very careful when you're touching the brain. And so then we are going to take this other cutting. It turns out that this cutting here, I had it inside of this water vase with the other one, and I normally don't do that, because what happens is you usually find that one of the cuttings will grow roots really well and the other one won't, and it turns out that this one didn't. It only grew them a little bit. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to give this one a different position and let its roots grow out even more. But we'll continue on with potting this one up, because this one has decent roots. And so I'm just going to dip it inside the rooting hormone powder like so. Give you a little closer look there. So you can kind of see, it's just kind of like this white stuff. It looks like powder, almost like flour. And we'll just dip it in there. Make sure all the roots get touched without trying to touch them ourselves. Granted, sometimes it's just difficult not to, and that happens. But in this case, we will try to be safe because we don't want to mess with the brains of a plant. The smartest part of the plant is underground, whereas the leaves, the workers, are above ground. And so obviously, for those of you who know about plants, and even if you don't, just a reminder, what the leaves do is the leaves are the main workers. What I mean by that is that during the day, they are collecting photosynthesis, performing the process of photosynthesis from the sun to convert energy and carbon dioxide and turn it into oxygen for us. And they do that through their stomata, these little holes that are on the leaves, and they collect it. And plants are actually incredibly active at night, it turns out. That's why you'll notice they probably grow more at night. They are taking everything that they have collected during the day from the sunshine, and they are then using that fuel to make themselves grow. And so it's always good when you have a cutting, especially of a plant, when you take a cutting rather, to try and grab like one that has more than one leaf, because you'll want that leaf to be able, once you pot it up, to photosynthesize and really help the plant grow more. And just like that, my friends, I told you it was fast, it was simple, and now we have a lovely new neon philodendron heteroecium, P. heteroecium. Philodendron being the genus and heteroecium, of course, being the species. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to set this off to the side because we're going to water it. You'll want to give your plant a thorough watering as soon as you are done potting it up like this, if it's a new cutting. That way it can start establishing its roots inside the soil, move its way around, and boom, bam, that's how plants do their thing. It sounds nice, you know. But here we go. Okay, I think next we're going to do the Philodendron Brazil, the Brazil philodendron, which of these species, of this classification of the heteroeciums, this is like my favorite. And it's also one of my favorite philodendrons. One, not just because it's such a beautiful plant. I mean, look at the variegation in that. They're super cheap too. You can usually find them at like your local supermarket. What I love about them is that they are very resilient, and they don't really ever, I don't think I've ever really seen any pest issues with them. Which is kind of crazy. And so we are going to put them, I believe, in this pot here. I think that's what I decided on. But then again, I'm always very indecisive. So we will take them and we will go with that pot, making a crucial decision here. And we're going to do the same thing as we had done. And that, my friends, is to start with a little layer of soil. That's how we'll pronounce it, soil. Okay. We have a nice little layer of soil in there. And then we are going to start dipping our Philodendron Brazil, the most stunning foliage, into our concoction here of hormone root growth, which will promote it to grow much faster and allow those roots to really thrive. They will be thriving. How about that? And then we're just going to place it in there. And again, be cautious about trying not to touch the roots. Leave the roots be because they are the brains of the operation. And then we will move on to the next. And the next one is absolutely stunning also. I must say, out of the 3 different types of Philodendron heteroecium that we had water propagating over the last month, that the Brazils really all had the healthiest root growth and creation. I was kind of surprised by that. I assumed that it would have been the standard green heartleaf variety, but I have been proven wrong. And that is not the first time that has happened this week. And this one actually has some little roots that grew up on those nodes there. And we're going to find a little space in here for this baby. This is going to be a nice one, I think. What I do with a lot of these cuttings and propagations is I just give them to friends. I have some friends who, actually a couple of them, who have recently purchased their first homes, and they always like to fill them up with plants, because who wouldn't? That one's a little tough to kind of squeeze in there just because that stem is so strong. Okay, we're gonna have to ease that in a little bit after. Then we're going to take this one, and see, I just broke my rule there of trying to not touch the roots, and there I did. I just grabbed the plant's brain. I'm sure that it's not too thrilled, or it's freaking out and going into shock, but this will be a super simple, easy, quick process for it. And it kind of looks like, and not only flower, but it just, I don't know, it's so bizarre. And the fact that it's like a living bacteria is kind of cool. Bacteria and some forms of fungi work symbiotically with a lot of plants. In fact, that's how trees communicate with each other. If you didn't know that, I highly recommend you YouTubing how trees communicate, because it'll blow your mind. They actually communicate with one another through an underground system of fungi. And it's really interesting because the fungi get nutrients from the plants, and so they work symbiotically with each other. What I mean by communication is that trees are able to, let's say, if there is a threat coming towards them, like a pest, they will communicate it to the other trees in the area to warn them in advance. And oftentimes, this can help out the trees. Let's say if they're able to activate something within them that can ward off the pest, like poisonous sap or something of that nature, you know? And that's really, really interesting. Now, they find that if there is like a mother tree that has baby trees in the area, that they're actually able to communicate with them on a stronger level than they would with other random trees in the area. Nature is insane, but I love it. I feel like sometimes plants probably communicate better than humans. Let's see here. We will then, this is the one that was giving us the issue because it's such a strong stem and such a beautiful leaf. I don't want to like bend them together, but that's what we might have to do. Okay, so now we are going to apply our soil as so. And what's good to get in the habit of, and I know I share this in other videos, but when you're putting the soil in, it's good to like shake it around so it can get in between all of those new roots that have grown. And so it's not like there's just pockets just kind of like sitting there, you know. It's always good to get in the habit of that. When I first started off with plants, I was not very smart about that, and I did realize a difference. Like some of them, the cuttings wouldn't grow as well. But we're gonna make sure these babies grow super well. Cool beans. Yay. And just like that, we have ourselves a very lovely new philodendron Brazil. Okay. Now on to the next one. And that, of course, is the standard philodendron heartleaf heteroecium. And so we will begin just like we did with the last two. We will take and put a layer of soil inside there. We're going to spray that base a little, and then we're going to start planting this away. And some of these are really super long roots. I mean, look at how long those roots grew in just a period of 4 weeks. And those weren't there before, remember. This is what we were doing, was we were just looking to create roots here so we can create new plants. And what's nice about these is that, you know, like I said, I give a lot of them away to friends, but other ones, you know, a lot of people will say, boy, Kevin, you sure have a lot of plants. And I do have a lot of plants. But the funny thing is that most of them are just propagation cuttings of my current plants. And so it's just like the same plant over and over, but just created in a different way. And we're going to not try to touch the roots, but we want to squeeze that in there like that. Okay, good. Okay, cool. And we have three more. Yeah. Okay. We will take this little baby one. Oops. Almost snapped its stem there. Could you imagine? I let it go 4 weeks to create new roots, and then all of a sudden I snap the stem. That would be awful plant parenting. Awful plant parenting. That should be like a catchphrase. I just don't want it associated with me being a bad plant parent. Okay. Try to push that down in there a little bit more. Perfect. Just so the root is closer to the base. And then we've got this guy. And again, we're going to dip it inside of our rooting powder with clumsy Kevin touching the roots. There we go. And I'll also, once I water these afterwards, I'll also kind of like wash down the leaves just in case, they get have soil on them or any of this rooting powder, just to make them look clean. And also, you want clean leaves with nothing on them so they can photosynthesize easier. Because photosynthesis is the way the plants live. And look, folks, we are down to our grand finale, the last one. This has been an interesting process. This is I think the most cuttings I have done at once with at least a philodendron heteroecium. I've done this before with pothos, which are much faster when you propagate them. I mean, I think that on average, it took like 2 weeks for pothos to really have roots grow out that were longer than 2 or 3 inches. This, of course, took about 4 weeks, I believe, is when we did this last time. So we have that, make sure that gets on there, and have that guy go this way, and you go this way. It's really important too. I mean, just from a styling and designing point, when you're potting up your cuttings, to make sure that they're going in a direction that you want. Because if you look at them and afterwards, after you pot it up, and you're like, boy, I really don't like it going in that direction, it's probably not ideal for you to repot it right then and there just because you didn't like how the layout of it looked. So keep that in mind too, because you want to make sure that the plant isn't going through as much shock as it's already going to go into. So I'm going to give you a closer look now inside there. And so after potting it up, you can see exactly what it looks like. And basically what we did was just kind of shake it around just to make sure that the soil mixture gets in between those roots. And it's also good to not overpack your plant with soil. You'll notice there's probably about 1 inch there on the sides where it doesn't go all the way up to the top. And that's because when you water the plant, you don't want it to carry so much of that moisture, because that will create root rot by keeping too much moisture in there without letting it have proper drainage. And so now we have 3 brand new philodendron heteroeciums. We have our standard green, we have our neon, and then we have our philodendron Brazil, brand new plants. And what I'm going to do now is water them and then let them sit close to the windows and kind of dry out so the roots get used to that soil. And then the big question becomes, what do we do with this wall? What are we going to put up there now? That is for the next episode.